republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call this meeting to order, and I'll ask for a roll call.
Crowner.
Here.
Covert.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lees. Young. Here.
Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll go to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve is presented.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so we'll move into our council staff reports. Greg?
Thank you, Your Honor. A few things for tonight. Our next council meeting will be on the 25th. Just as a reminder, several of us will be at the League on the 18th. On the 23rd, we have our joint meeting with Burlington at the Community College, 4 o'clock. On the 20th is the kickoff with the University of Iowa. More details to come. For those that are not attending and will be in town, if you could let me know, not attending the league meeting, it'd be nice to have some council representation, but we'll be coordinating with folks to make sure that we're represented that day. It just worked best for the students. That's the 20th, Friday. And they'll have about 22 students down here that day for the kickoff light, I guess they're going to call it, but to get things going.
Are we meeting here at City Hall or where? Or at the trail? On the
Details coming to be determined.
And
They're going to do a fun activity while they're in the community, as well as obviously visit several of the project sites that they're working on, or set up any meetings that they need to. But they typically try to do some type of fun activity too, and a tour as well. So tour guides would also be appreciated. I'm going to try and set up a bus for them. Otherwise, they typically will take their 2 or 3 vans that they come down in and have somebody in each of those.
And then on the 23rd at FCC where we're meeting, do you have a room?
It is the private dining room outside of the student cafeteria.
Is that 4 p.m., is that right?
4:30.
Yeah.
I think.
4:30?
I think it said 4:30, that, when you sent me. I'll send out.
It'll be in the update too, but it's either 4 or 4:30 on Monday. It's whatever their normal, I think, time is. It might be 4:30. I think I reserved it starting at 4:30. Excuse me, 4. But we'll confirm for you. But yes, that's on the 23rd. Student meetings have started this week. I'll be in Iowa tomorrow, meeting with one of the groups, doing a short presentation. Friday, we have stormwater, I believe, as well. Zoning update, we met with Bolton and Mink today just to kind of get an update. I'll send a copy of that out on Friday. Things are on track. Zoning folks should be getting an invite from Bolton and Mink for a doodle poll, try to find the best date on that steering committee portion. But I think that'll be going well. I think you'll enjoy working with Moira and the other young lady that was here as well. I mentioned the joint meeting already. I'm working with REC. They're reviewing the draft documents that I put together. Basically used the Alliant ones and swapped it out, tweaked it just a little bit for their purposes. And so we should be hearing back shortly from REC. Chris Ailes thinks that we're going to be done with the project just after into the new year is their target. At this point in time, they think they'll be done with the project.
For the 55-plus
For
community?
the senior housing program after just into the new year. So they are on target, on time, so that's going well. was glad to hear that. And two personal notes. Just wanted to recognize my dad. He's had 50-plus years of service in and for the Navy, and he's going on honor flight on the 18th. So I appreciate that. And the other thing, go Cyclones. That's all.
Thank you. Chase?
Just been cleaning up brush all week for the last week. Friday, Bolton and Meek will have two people down here to start with the stormwater surveying, and we'll be sending two people to help pop manholes and do whatever they need. They said it'll probably take 2 to 3 days, so. Then Casey's, we're just waiting for them to pass their bacteria test, and then they'll be good for water. So, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
JC, you guys did a great job there. And
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thanks.
I know the citizens in town are appreciative of all the work that's been done to help them out, so.
Good deal.
I was riding a bike through the community last night, and it's a huge difference. Weeks made. The guys have done a great job, absolutely great job. The community as well. So appreciate it.
Jesse?
A couple things. Speaking with the county EMA, emergency management, the reason the sirens did not go off, it did not meet the threshold for that. When the National Weather Service put out the severe thunderstorm warning, it was for 60-mile-an-hour winds and quarter size or pea-size hail, whatever it was. We ended up getting hit with, I believe it was called a macro burst, which had winds up to 80 mile an hour. It's just something that produced as it was coming this way. So National Weather Service, you can't predict those kind of outbursts or those kind of storms. So that is why the sirens did not go off. Afterwards, they should have, but again, they can't predict everything. So that's why that did not go off. We responded to, I think, 13 calls that night. We had a partial collapse out at Menard Self-Storage. Facility was closed down, and they got the green light today to open back up. They got that portion of the roof fixed. Structurally, the beams were fixed and all that. They're just waiting to put the sheet metal back on the roof, so that should be opening back up either today or tomorrow, pending approval by the headquarters of Menard. So myself and Fire Marshal or City Inspector Crooks went through there this morning with the Menards group. So it was, with those guys, it was a busy night for a few hours out dealing with all that. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anything from building department that you want to mention?
Just Chris Ailes, that was a question that was asked last time. Jesse mentioned Menards. Chase has been working with Casey's, as he mentioned, helping them along. I did have interest in, we have had some interest in a small housing project adjacent to the mall, but more information to come on that one. Do a little research. And we were talking this morning in the staff meeting, possibly starting on one end of town and working our way to the other town, having Mark do that as his schedule allows, but also giving the public 2-3 weeks, plenty of notice ahead of time before we start working our way through, maybe just kind of as time allows.
Okay. Thank you. Kelly, anything on your end?
Not tonight.
Angie? Okay. Council reports, Melanie, anything?
Just a couple quick things. Tonight, before we leave, maybe the council and mayor and us get together on our plan for who's driving where and how to the League of Cities and who's going and not going next, the week after next, because I'm not sure what our plan is, and I think it's evolving. Second thing is, I know the trail, do we have a plan or idea when we will do a ribbon cutting, or any ideas on if we're ready to do that, or still a question
We
mark?
do have the punch list left. There is a minor defect in the asphalt.
Couple
that
spots
Chase
in the
found.
asphalt that need fixed.
Some spalding, one area that I do know of one crack, so but we haven't done the punch list yet, but I was working with Melissa Jones, to coordinate a, ribbon cutting late September, most likely, or very beginning of October.
Cool, good, just so we have it on the calendar and we do.
There's 3 other ones, I think I put them in, last week's, but, I can't, there's 3 other ribbon cuttings going on in the community, so, here in the very near future as well, so.
Okay, thank you. Reminder that the Trail Committee, we're going to meet again next week, September 9th at 9 o'clock, and we're going to meet on site this time on the park area, so FYI. Also reminder, October 19th, everybody, is the Alzheimer's Walk in West Burlington, and that starts at the mall, and it's like about a 2-mile route that goes through the community of West Burlington. Roughly starts at check-in at 9:30, by 9:30 ceremony, 9:45. Walk is at 10:20. I assume that's all been coordinated, Jesse, with you, but it just make our residents aware that it's something that goes on in our community. Neat way to show off our community that one day, that one morning in West Burlington.
Application I have not seen,
I haven't seen
so
the
that needs to be turned in, but they've been discussing about having law enforcement there.
Which usually includes a copy of the route as well.
Okay,
Want me to get a hold of Michelle?
that'd be great. See what she's not done that she.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And last but not least, was fun to participate in Dame Fine's ribbon cutting ceremony last week. Nice to have a new, different small business in our community, and good representation of the city people who showed up. So nice job and welcome, Dame Fine Coffee.
Dame.
That's all I got, Dame Fine Coffee. It is. Either way. That's all I have, Ron.
All right, thank you. Treese?
Well, kudos again to Chase, because those guys were out there in the middle of the night picking up branches out of roadways and stuff like that, and then they were back out again early in the morning. I don't even think they got 8 hours of sleep. I did, but they probably didn't. And the other thing I'm going to request, school's back in session, and cars are speeding down West Burlington Avenue and Broadway. Can we get those little thingies from Southeast
I'll see if
Regional Planning, if we can
I'll see
put
if
them out?
anybody's any available. We did, this year for a grant for Governor's Safety Traffic Bureau, we are going to get a speed trailer ordered through them, so that goes out October 1st, so after that, we'll get that ordered and we'll be able to haul that around. We'll own it, so we'll be able to take it around and set it up around town. But I'll see if they have any available now.
And then the dog days of summer, that was a hit over at the park. The dogs were having so much fun, and they flooded the basketball court, because it used to sub as an ice rink way back in the days when we got really, really cold. But the dogs had fun. They all had hot dogs, and it was just a nice thing, and it's probably better than taking them over to the pool and clogging our filters and stuff, but it was exciting, and I think they'll probably plan it again.
Received a nice thank you letter from the Humane Society as well. So, and they said, several of them said they enjoyed it actually better than the pool, so.
Now, the dogs had more run to room.
More room to run, yep.
Were you one of them? Dame Pine? Yep. Thank you, Ron.
Sure. John?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay.
No.
Andy?
Just one thing, the mayor and I and the new superintendent had met not very long ago, and one of our discussion was any way to encourage lifeguards to join us next year. And the superintendent has worked with BHS, with Burlington School District, to now allow West Burlington students to enroll in lifeguard training at BHS starting this second semester. So hopefully that will lead to more lifeguard opportunities, but that was a pretty quick turnaround. And good partnership between the schools too. That's
And
it.
it was
Thank you.
for credit too, right?
Yeah, full
It is.
credit, yeah.
Right.
It would be their gym class, but they can get lifeguard certification on it.
We would promote something before that starts.
Also, Public Works and Police were out at the Touch a Truck at the mall, the same day as the Dog Days of Summer. So that was good to see those guys out there.
How'd that Touch a Truck go?
Busy.
Well attended?
Yeah.
Super. Thank you.
Ringo?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to also echo the kudos for the Public Works and what they've done. I certainly appreciate it. We'll go on to our citizen inquiries, which I... Do you have anything for the council?
No, she's fire department.
Oh, sorry. All righty. And old business, none, so we'll go into our new business. Our first item is considering a resolution adding Suzanne Eel and Rady Malcolm to the West Burlington Fire Department.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion and support.
Last name may be familiar for Miss L here. Her grandfather was the fire chief down at Burlington Fire Department for many, many, many years before Fire Chief Trexel is. So she's got, both of them have their EMT, and then the other gentleman, Mr. Malcolm, came from Indianola Fire Department, which is a full-time fire department. He moved back to the area, so he's got his certifications too. So adding 2 EMTs will really help us out.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Glad to have you.
I'll take a roll call vote then.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank
you. Welcome. All right, number 2 is considering the purchase of a 2023 Chevy Tahoe for the police department from Carl Chevrolet for $49,905.20.
There's a typo in that. It's a 2024 Chevy Tahoe. That was my mistake. I had 23 at the top, and then at the bottom I had 24, so
It's a 24. All right.
So I see that, I'll wait for someone to make a motion approved.
Support.
Motion support. Discussion?
Yeah, so if we didn't put money aside to purchase this, and I know you got money coming back from the other wrecked vehicle, where are we gonna get the other chunk of change?
Well,
Room in your budget to,
well, you're gonna have to see what kind of room we have in the budget. It's either that or we're gonna have to amend for it at the end of the budget year.
What's the total we're getting back?
We got back a total of,
23 or 26?
we got a total of 27,373.75.
Typically like to wait till the end, further into the year, but try and obviously see where we can save. Local option, it would certainly be, we do transfer capital from local option. So we have a couple different options for the acquisition.
Chief, how many squad cars do we have actually active right now then?
Just down the one, well, we're down 2 right now with the transmission on the other one. So we have 2 patrol cars, 3 patrol cars, and then the command staff.
So we just got 3 patrol cars, right? So we're hot seating.
Yep.
So Chief, what will it be by the time we get it fitted with all the equipment?
Excuse me?
The equipment, what will be the total once we get the
That
equipment?
will be approximately $20,000 for the equipment. I'm not very happy with Carl's equipment. Their install, how long it took us. There is another company that does it also. So I just need to get the last couple quotes have come in about $20,000 for a complete install of equipment.
Did you factor in what you
And we can't,
salvaged?
and we can't use the equipment we had in the other car?
The equipment we will use, we will reuse, but, again, like, the models of these vehicles are not like the models we have now, so the light bars don't fit, the cages don't fit in the new vehicles, just because of different models.
And that's not in this quote?
That is not in this quote,
Your equipment, does that include labor?
yes.
So
So-
we will get reimbursed for the labor, for the reinstallation of the new equipment. I can file another claim, and they'll reimburse us for the installation of the equipment, so.
And we still are waiting for some smaller reimbursements, medical and otherwise, or did we receive those?
We received, the removal check, so we've gotten everything thus far. So we can still file claims for any of the electronics that were taken out that may not work when it gets reinstalled into the equipment, into the new vehicle, and then the installation of the new equipment. So we still have some flexibility, so we'll still get reimbursement for that kind of stuff.
Some of the equipment that doesn't fit the new car, can the old equipment be sold at some point?
It can be, yeah.
Can be sold, but it could also be used on the other, well, I guess it can't be used on the Ford though, can it?
The only
No.
equipment that we took out of that car was
The electronics,
electronics.
that's true. We
That
had to,
was it.
we had to leave the light bars, we had to leave that equipment on there, on that vehicle.
But yes, we can put it on, what is it, Gov Deals? What are we?
Gov
Deals?
So when I did the paperwork for this, we only got 9,000, 11,000 for the car. But when I filed the claim for the equipment, I just took the estimate that we had gotten from Carl Motors on the previous Tahoe that did not include the labor, and I submitted that, and that is what they gave us for the equipment, but that's also included in the $27,000 that we got back, so.
It sounds like we need it from the amount of cars you're saying we have. I guess I wonder, can we kind of reshape our schedule then and maybe not buy one next year and skip that year? I forget where we're falling on budget years, but.
I mean, we can discuss it during budget time. I got a, argument for that. but
Yeah, I understand.
It's just hard to skip a year for vehicles. Unfortunate thing about it, it's very hard to skip years for that, but we can definitely talk about it during budget time.
Yeah, when you start hot seeing these cars, you're putting on a lot of miles, a lot of heat time on them, and they break down.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said earlier, Greg, many years ago, this in 2005 and 2006, did the study on them where they had individually signed cars and they last a lot longer. Obviously, it was proven when I drove the vehicle I had that many years, and they just recently fell on the transmission. That was one in the fleet. And I don't know the cost savings versus, but when you start hot seating them, it was a different. I don't remember. Chief Logan was here when I came here because I replaced his number, and then the cars they had chunks out of the steering wheels. Some of the seats were cockeyed. It's because you had different sized people in the vehicles. They wasn't well taken care of, and we're lucky you made them around the block sometimes.
But yes, to answer your question, there will be a discussion on them. Well, before then, actually.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay. Okay.
I mean, where are you thinking right now, where are we paying for it?
General fund balance, local options, sales tax, and savings that we can generate from the department.
My rough estimate is that it's gonna cost the city, after insurance, everything, around $39,000 to $40,000.
Oh, and how much did we have in the equipment fund balance? That was the other.
The capital reserve, we have 26,000. $960.
So that's option number one.
Yeah.
And then we can always backfill that. But so equipment reserve, local option, general fund and savings. But yes, that's how much we currently have in police.
Do we have anything else earmarked out of that capital reserve
Next
this
card.
year?
The next card.
For this year?
Right.
We're looking real quick. I don't think we had anything scheduled.
It's just building for the next card.
Just, the new radios.
Well, and larger ones, but yeah.
I didn't know what that cost was gonna be when we did that.
We do have the radios at 35,000, and I don't believe it's gonna cost that much for that, so we could possibly use some of that too. So,
I think I'd rather use that than the local option. Local option first.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least use it first.
Okay. I don't believe I need to have a roll call on this, so.
I don't have a motion yet.
What?
I don't think I
Yeah.
have a motion.
Yeah, I
Teresa gave a motion.
I didn't
John, you second? No.
Somebody down there, well, I did, sure, yes. I
Yes.
did.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our third item, consider a quote from
Schluter.
Schluter Automotive to replace the transmission on the police department's 2017 Ford Explorer Unit Number 8.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion and support, discussion on this?
I did receive 2 quotes, and this one was, like that states, it was lower than what the other quote was, comparing apples to apples, so.
Okay. In that case, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So we'll go to number 4, which is consider the purchase of bunker gear, 6 sets from Dingus Fire for $22,218.
So move.
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion on this? Okay. If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so number 5, consider entering into a professional services agreement with MB Contracting LLC to perform stormwater project services, inspect services, and snow removal and mowing services as needed.
Motion approved.
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion?
Based on earlier conversations, Mike is able to contract with the city after a month. His month timeframe is up. We can have discussions now at present. Chase has been doing an excellent job working with his team, pulled the admin functions that we talked about out of here. Simply think it'd be useful for the stormwater project, for the planning, engineering, and the project, and the discussions that we have with county conservation, county, other affected parties or potential responsible parties or participants, to have his knowledge for the stormwater. Fog, fats, oil, and grease is a problem that we have, that they deal with in the sewers, and it'd be nice to implement an inspection program that would be covered through those, through fees. It seems like a good opportunity to take advantage of Mike to do that. Mentioned, or had that discussion with him a couple days ago. and it seems like a good opportunity, and it would more than cover his cost if we were to implement either a permit or inspection or penalty for that program. We do have a fog program. It could be better. There are a number of communities that I've been looking at, Dubuque, North Liberty, and some others as well, had it in Muscatine. As needed, limited basis, snow or grass removal would be an opportunity. Obviously, he could work on his own without the need for much supervision in that regards, other than what the need was. Snowstorms where they may need additional help. We do not have 2 part-timers, and we are down, or we have not replaced Chase's or Mike's position, Chase's position. With Public Works, we went through and prepared the cost savings, and for fiscal year 24-25, we were going to have a savings of roughly $53,500, and for the following fiscal year, $52,122 if we were to utilize contracted services. So it seemed like a good time and an opportunity, especially with the stormwater project, for the planning, engineering discussions, as well as the discussions with other area entities. So.
Chase, you sure you want to put up with them again? I don't know.
This time you're the boss, though.
Well, we did take that piece out. I mean, everything's been going smoothly with Chase on the admin side and with the employees. So this is really more limited than we had originally discussed. So, but the stormwater is really the key from my perspective. And I also think the fog program is an excellent idea. An ounce of prevention in the sewers where they're not having to clean out fat, oil, grease, or we're not sending something to the wastewater treatment plant, say, for example, from an automotive location, that could cost us significantly more dollars than a little prevention up front.
So Chase, is there something that you guys could do instead? I mean, can you, as
far as, like,
the $50 an hour that we'd be paying Mike for the storm sewer and the grease thing?
Nobody has the knowledge with stormwater or on-site or history that Mike has. He's put a lot of effort and work into that. My plan would be, obviously, when we've talked, is to have Chase at every single one of those meetings. And then we'll also have that new stormwater layer that we'll receive from Bolton and Mink as well. So I guess the goal is to instill that knowledge in Chase and anybody that Chase wishes to include as well, so we can get a better transfer of that knowledge. But also, it's difficult to have a discussion with another entity when you don't have that background. So having that background, the information, the research, the on-hands work that was done would be very valuable in those discussions. FOG is the new program, and hopefully we can implement it ourselves once we get it up and running. But it seems like a good opportunity to have somebody go around, make sure we get all of those permitted, identified, inspected, and then my plan would be to incorporate that into city services rather than contract it out after the initial phase.
So I understand the sewer and the fog. I understand that. I don't understand paying somebody $25 an hour to mow. If that to me is ridiculous, you know. And
what's our base rate for
running the snow plow?
I think that's only as needed. I think we did that with Randy when we were just shorthanded a time or two. They just needed an extra guy. I think that's all they're talking about doing, not regularly.
But are they talking about that?
Yeah,
right.
Like a big storm.
It appears the way it wrote that we're just giving him another part-time job. back through contract, and I don't want that. You know, I want to pay him when we need him, but not just to give him another job. And the way this is wrote, the mowing and the snow removal and.
It allows for flexibility, it does. It does. I mean, it could be 1 hour that we need him 1 week, it could be 15 hours, we need him 1 week. I mean, over that same period, I just can't predict the hours that we would need him during, at this point in time. You'll see those payments, just like you did with myself, every 2 weeks on the agenda. So if it's something that you're not, that you see that's out of hand, I mean, you'll see that every 2 weeks on the consent agenda as well.
Another thing we have, they're fortunate, we know Mike's personality and his genuine concern about our community and how much involved he is, and he's not the type of person that I've ever known to take advantage of the situation. He would alert us if there's a better way of doing something, and that's how I feel about what Mike would do.
He knows the snow routes. It's not something that we need to manage from a mowing perspective. So it seems like a good proposition, and we're still saving a substantial amount of money by doing this.
I think it's a great idea, and if he's willing to do it, I think he's extremely valuable to our city.
Absolutely.
And by the time you started adding up all the, if we hired another employee to do this, all the extra things we'd have in healthcare and so forth, I think you'd be over that amount anyway. So I think having that knowledge base still at a ready and as part of our city is just an invaluable person to bring back on board, and I'm greatly in favor of this.
So is this forever, or is there a time limit on this? 1 year, 6 months?
It's, the contract's written until services are no longer needed. So
Yeah.
it's at our discretion.
The biggest factor in here will be the stormwater project, and the planning, engineering, and design work and discussions with area entities that go into that. That'll be the main driving factor beyond or dictating those services. And I can't predict that at this point in time. We're doing the stormwater master plan. We just received the grant for $160,000 to take whatever recommendations come out of that for the Lewis Park to 60% design. We'll be able to include the students in there, and we've got a number of meetings. So we've got a lot of work to do. I can't give you a firm date on the stormwater, except that we're trying to move that forward as fast as possible. And now we'll have some student assistance from engineering. Bolton Mink reminded them again today. They're happy to include students and educating students, and at the end of the day, maybe they'll even get somebody out of the deal. So it's a win-win for them as well. But we know we have problems, and the students are interested in working on the lures piece of it, and there's a lot of work to do on that. I can't give you an exact date, but again, every 2 weeks at a council meeting, you'll see an invoice on the consent agenda, just like you had before. So you'll see what's getting done. If you have an issue, you can let us know in advance. We can let you know exactly what was done.
Can we just log them down forever?
Sure.
Because we'd be more interested in that.
Go for it.
But I didn't really want to ever leave, so I'm okay with not having a quick end date on this thing.
Yeah, this doesn't lock you in, Johnny, this does not lock us in to like 5 years with him.
No, we're not locked in.
The way it's written,
I'm more concerned that we're just
30
giving him
hours.
another job back. That's what I'm more concerned about. You know, that at
I think it's-
$55 an hour and $25 for mowing.
I think it's great that he's coming back. I mean, what's our
I am
starting
too.
wage?
I am too. I am
He's
too,
not-
as
I don't
long
think
as
he's looking
it's
for a full-time.
needed.
He's not looking for a full-time, not until we got another part-time job that he's working. And do you know off the top of our head our base wage
Yeah.
for Public Works? Just base wage, not the total wage.
Not benefits. Because usually you throw 40% on top of base wage to get that.
40%, that's low.
Okay, 60.
Depends on
I'm used to 40.
your,
But it's higher, it's over 25.
20.
I want to say it's like 28 or 29.
Yeah, that's,
And that's for your basic employee. I mean, and you've got the knowledge and experience of somebody that's had it, all the other benefits that come with it.
Vacation time.
I think we're getting a good bang for our buck, and somebody that you don't have to
That was
train,
training time.
manage, look over their shoulder, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Valuable resource to have.
And he's not requiring a minimum amount of hours to commit to this. Many contractors would, they say, well, if I'm gonna keep you on my line, they're gonna, he's not, from what I could see, not asking a minimum number of
Yeah, a
hours
minimum
to be
retainer
available.
or something.
Nothing like that, yeah.
He has at least one other part-time job he's working right now, maybe a second one
Yeah, he's doing a couple different things.
as well, so.
Wanted to come back full-time.
But he's about running out of time to do this.
Just for clarity, you know, I'm okay with half of this. I'm not okay with the other half. So just putting that out there. I'm okay with 50 an hour for the sewer and that, but for the rest of that,
Okay. I'll call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
nay.
Motion carries. We will go on to our last item, which is discuss the extension of the sanitary sewer to Sunset Lane.
I included the notes from our previous discussion, the rough estimate of cost with the limitations that they have. I mean, this is there's a lot of information that our engineers do not have, but you've got about an $850,000 project, plus engineering, 8 to 10, 12% or higher, but roughly out there. You had the survey work that was done by John and Reno. Appreciate that very much. They appear to be in favor of it. This is not in our capital plan. Just to be clear, there's no requirement that we do this. They have been in the city limits now. What was the date on that? Those documents, but for a number of years. But they also came in with the septic as well. So there's certainly pros and cons to it. There's a number of ways that we can approach it. I guess the question is, how quickly do we approach it? If we're going to do it now, what are the methods that you'd be willing to consider to pay for it? Otherwise, do you wish to plug it into our capital planning efforts and move forward with it at a later date? Some potential funding options for it. The fund balance from the undesignated TIF is just over $367,000, but that does not include the potential for the ring road that we've discussed. That we have other discussions we need to have there as well. Tax increment financing, I guess the traditional format, there is no increment being generated off of this, other than perhaps one or two potential houses. So there's no new increment coming from this project. So if you did capture additional increment, TIF, it would affect the city's general fund. Just want to be clear on that, unless you had another project coming in where you used fund balance. Local option sales tax is fund balance.
I'm sorry, Greg.
Sure.
So we don't anticipate an increase in property value by executing this project? Because I guess if I would see the
No.
property value go up, then ultimately.
Nothing that would drive any real increment to help pay for it. And as you saw in the newspaper, we lost $36 million in valuation that will be having to work through this next year. But there's typically with say a housing project or any project where they're putting in the infrastructure, like in this case. So if this was a brand new project, for example, those new homes would generate new tax dollars, which would in turn generate new increment, which could help go to pay for that infrastructure. We don't have that in this situation because it's an existing subdivision.
Thank you.
Sewer capital reserves at the end of this budget year will be around $120,000. general obligation, if you were to put 50 cents, for example, the 25 cents that we put on for the other more recent project generated roughly, was it 500,000? If you put 50 cents on, you generate roughly $1 million. So general obligation, we'd want to certainly run more solid numbers as an option that you could do. That does increase the levy. SRF, that would directly impact our water rates. We'd have to show that we were able to pay for it with our water rates. So that would most likely directly impact our water rates, and we have not addressed the 5% increase we received from Burlington Water Works yet as well. The franchise fee was designated for sewer, sanitary sewer and water. Of course, we have a $6.5 million plus project for the force main. Engineering would likely take up at least the first 2 years worth of revenue from the franchise fee. RAC with minimal number of homes. John and I were talking today, we're probably talking $2,400 worth of income.
For the rural.
For the rural, right. So those are I guess the basic funding mechanisms for a project like this that we have. So there's interest, but I guess, is it a priority, or is it something that we need to plan for? And if we want to do it now, we're going to have to choose one of these methods or a combination thereof to fund it. And I'd be hesitant to want to take our fund balances down too far, but you could certainly use a portion of those fund balances. But again, you do have other projects on your CIP and projects that we've discussed that need to be factored in or weighed in your decision making. So just a few brief comments. I'll let council take it for discussion, or happy to answer any questions.
Greg, I got two things. One, John and I they were discussing this with the residents, made sure everybody was aware this was not a project that could possibly be done quickly. It was something that wasn't even budgeted for this year, and but we were trying to explore for even if we can do the budget for the next year. And then I had a couple of residents that did contact me, and they had a question whether if they're on a well, they would have to hook up then to West Burlington Water. I didn't have an answer for them on that. And I told them
There's water. There is water, and they should hook up now, actually. Sewer, they'd be mandated to hook up by city and state code, but yes, the water, they should also are required to hook up. If they have a well and they're not hooked up, they are required currently to hook up. Irregardless of this issue, they're required to hook up
All on well
now.
water, or just some?
I think some were on well water still that they had a question on it.
And then, yes, you would need to at least pay for the engineering. We'd have them put together an engineering services agreement, bring it forward to council. So the engineering services agreement would be paid, would start now, with the ability to budget for the project for the next fiscal year. The limitation was a 2-year agreement that DNR would be willing to accept, but only if the county, and I apologize, I can't remember the gentleman's name. Greg Lemke. Yes, Mr. Lemke has to agree to that contract. But DNR was willing to take up to 2 years if the city was going to move forward with the project. And if we failed to move forward, then at that time, they would be required to repair or fix their septic systems.
So
Just those that were looking to transfer
Just a question. So
or had a problem.
when we do our force main, is
Yes.
this something we can add into the force main and do it all at the same project? Because I'd rather have my force main working before I take on any more.
Well, this would be a gravity project versus force main, but there's no reason you couldn't do a an additional project as part of that project. That would be a locally let project rather than a state bid. So you could certainly add an additional component to the project in addition to the force main. That's certainly feasible, and done it with CSO projects. So we have them at different locations.
Would there be a cost savings by doing something like that as a tag on?
Potentially. It's a $6.5 million project today. Who knows how much it's going to be by the time we get to it. But quantity typically helps with cost. But I mean, as you saw with the trail, I mean, those costs have gone up substantially. But that was that wasn't just in green space. Like an Agency Street trail is largely in green space. We just go through with the paver, although they probably could have done that on this project as well.
So just to recap, so we had a meeting we sent letters out, and we had like 5 people that showed up here, 5 different families, 5 or 6, and they were all in agreement. And then me and Ringo went out there and talked to the rest of them, and by the time we got done with the rest of them, everybody wanted it. A couple of them was almost begging us to get it done because they had already called the sewer people out twice, I think.
Yeah, one family did. They already had them out twice.
Yeah, had them out there twice, and so with nobody nobody not wanting it that I heard from, and everybody wanting it, and then being in the city for so long, and this probably should have been addressed back, but just nobody ever wanted to take on the project, I guess, for better words. There's families out there that's going to be selling their homes, and if they have to put $25,000 to $40,000 in septic tanks, because I think the double tanks, it says $25,000. Really, the double tankers are more expensive, and then they have to be looked at every year, and then every 5 or 7 years they have to be pumped out and then redone inside. So they're really more expensive than the $25,000. For them to go through and do that, and then us come and put sewer in later down the road, that would just be awful. I mean, I would think that would be a very poor judgment on this city, on the city council to do that after spending that money. There's probably not a recovery area to the city to reimburse them 10 years down the road, nor would the city want to do it. But think about that same process of the city probably wouldn't want to do that. Think of what the people were not wanting to do either. They're not wanting to spend that money for that when we could put it in and they all want it. The good thing is that at the point in time right now, the engineering says that the pipelines are big enough to handle the sewer from all the homes out there. So we don't have to increase the pumping station. We don't have to increase the lines going to the main one. All we have to do is get it through under the highway and a line down. As Ringo and me was telling them, they would be responsible for the lines coming to the main sewer line, and they all agreed at the time when we talked to them that they understood that and they were willing to do that. Things come up like this, and to me this is more important than the ring road around the mall, because these people are this is more important than I hate to say this, but another trail. Although it's very important to get that trail along Mount Pleasant Street, or Agency. Yeah. I really think this is a project we need to do. Now, how do we fund it? There's, we don't recoup no money from the TIF going out there, but we could make that a TIF area, and we could take the 100,000 of that from the TIF. A year ago, we had $1.2 million in TIF that we could have used, and we've spent it on other projects.
Why wasn't this project brought up a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago?
Because that wasn't brought up, because somebody didn't say, hey, the septics are bad out here.
The
That's why it
residents
wasn't.
didn't see it as a concern at the time, I assume?
Nobody was, at that point in time the way I see it, nobody was selling their houses, and when they went to sell a house, and I think Andy the first thing that's brought up was, hey, septic, you have to replace it,
My understanding is most of them were family transfers that didn't have the same septic requirements. HOA, it's not uncommon to have a subdivision that has, that's responsible for its own water, sewer, or roads. My last home within city limits, my last home within the city limits had private roads, private water, and a septic system. So it's not uncommon to have. Now, is it the best option? Probably not the best option. I'm never going to have another septic tank myself, but it is not an uncommon thing or practice. The other issue was how it was designed at the time. While illegal was the discussion, probably wasn't the best way to put it in, where you have combined well fields or septic fields as well. So it was, I think it just became an issue when people started transferring it, as I understand it, outside of families.
Yeah.
And that's just coming in to fruition, and it was identified as an issue with the required inspections.
I guess I see this a little differently, dealing with this. I mean, every day I have a conversation with somebody that's interested in selling a house, and they have a septic. And that's the first thing you have to bring up is when it was last checked, when was it put in, these kind of things. And but to me, a septic's not a bad thing. Actually, a lot of times it's actually more cost affordable long term compared to a monthly sewer bill. So some of these cases, if you'd kind of put that money away like you're doing a sewer bill, they actually would save quite a bit of money doing it this way compared to paying a monthly sewer rate. So to me, a septic's not a bad thing, and it's pretty normal. This isn't the only subsection of West Burlington even that's on septic. So there's other sections just right behind this on Highway 406 there. There's more homes right there. So all around us, there's homes. Every little small development of, less than 40, 50 homes, they're sitting on septic still. And yep, and the DNR's got new rules that aren't really new. I had to put a new septic in my own when I was out on Summer Street 16-ish years ago, somewhere around then. So I was one of the first ones caught up in it then. And of course, prices are higher now, but it was still like 15 grand back then. So to me, this is, you buy a house knowing it's on a septic, you're not hooked up to city sewer, and that's part of this house that you're buying, but you know that in exchange, I'm buying something because I want to be outside of proper town and more in the country and have that country feel, which has some downsides to it. You don't have city sewer. Typically, you don't have city water. Now, in this case, they do. So I don't see this as a downside except for when you go to sell. And those DNR rules of having to have it up to standard use, not really code. I think that's a good thing for our environment as well, even though it hurts me when I go to sell a house. A lot of times they don't like to have that $20,000 or $25,000 bill on it, but in general, is a good thing for us to have that check to update septic systems and make sure they're not just spilling out sewage into the ground, and that it's getting cleaned somewhat in a septic system. So I can feel for them because I've had to do it, but in my opinion, running city sewer somewhere really requires more development than this. We even have some areas of our own town and lots that don't have city sewer ran to it yet. I could name you a few right over here. And I ran into the same thing in Burlington, right in the middle of town, that they don't have city sewer. They're still sitting on septic right on South Street, right in the middle of town. So I'm personally not in favor of this without more development out that direction. If there was, 40, 50, 60 homes sitting out there, I think it'd be different. You'd have the sewer rates to then pay for that over long term, or if you had new development to have that TIF increment, then I think it would make sense. But as it sits, to pick out one pocket when there's many pockets that need it, I'm not in favor of that currently and don't have an easy way to fund it. That would change though for me if, let's say, the fields around it developed and we had new TIF to spend on it, then I think that becomes something we can look at, but not today.
So there's a new house that was just put down there a year or two ago, and there's a gentleman that wants to put another new house up. And, they would love to have sewer, with that too.
Yeah. Everybody would love to. Is it cost effective to do it?
And all that you're talking about, Andy, I don't believe that you can say that there's 17, 18 homes in West Burlington in one conglomerate that would better serve than this one. I mean, I can't think of any place in town that there's so many houses so close that would, one septic line would serve. One new sewer line.
Well, I mean,
And take
we're
that many
discussing
people
right
off
now
of septic.
some new developments. I mean, we're sitting on this housing committee with the university of going into Derry's land, right, where there's no current sewer through the property. We're requiring developers to do that, not us. There's the Force one on the other side, but not through the middle of it. And that's the same thing. We're not just building one through there for them. Now, if they do go to build, we would have some TIF increment to use to maybe help with either the road or that. But in this case, we don't have that.
So what you're really saying then is, because they were forced into the city by annex, and now that they're
Forced into
there.
what?
I don't think they were
Annexation, they were forced, they fought it, yes, they did, they fought it, and they argued about it, they didn't want in.
Remind me
And
that
that's, I got that proof.
How long ago was this, John?
When they annexed?
It was before I was alive.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
So
And-
most of the
and-
people that were.
It wasn't the residents that fought it, it was
No, the residents did.
We did.
We talked to some of them that said they did. Am I right, Ringo?
State.
You are correct, John. Several of the residents said that
State.
That still lived there.
their families or themselves did not want to be annexed when it happened.
And they packed the city hall protesting it. So what we're saying, by not doing this project, what we're saying is those people, because they got annexed and because the project doesn't create any more, to heck with them, but if somebody comes in and wants new projects,
It's not
we'll
to heck
bend
with
over
them, John.
backwards for it. We'll bend over backwards to
Again,
put in.
I don't see a septic as a bad thing, so it's not to heck with them. They have the sewer system that is provided for that home that they purchased. And to run that new line out there is not very cost effective, even compared to the cost. It would be cheaper for us to go in and put all new, brand new septics in for them.
No?
Oh, yeah, it would.
Because
Yeah.
if some of them are gonna be
No, it would.
35 and 40,000, you multiply
It
that
won't be-
times 16.
I'm telling you, it won't be that much, because I put them in constantly, okay? The highest one I've ever done was 27,000, and that
Yeah.
one was a real issue.
But most of the people that you probably did, had lines running out and had, they didn't have the double tank where you have to,
I've had double tanks, I can take you to them. Yep,
and 27,000?
27,000, I can pull up the bid right now for you.
And they have to have it inspected for $350 a year.
Time
and
out. That's not true, actually, and I don't know who told
Yeah.
you that, but me and Lemke and Kenny Martin sat here going, you don't have to have it inspected ever. Now, if you want it inspected for your own peace of mind of it working well, you can do that, but there is no yearly inspection that you have to have on a septic.
on the double tank.
Lemke brought it up at the
He's the one
public-
that told me.
No.
It may not be accurate, but it did come up during the discussion, at that public meeting.
There's
Yeah.
no law forcing you to do that. If you want to do it, that's fine.
Gentlemen, for this discussion, we need to have facts that come in, so I don't think we need to go into this portion of the discussion until we get a statement from somebody, okay? I mean, the argument that you're having here is something that could be easily solved, but not tonight at this moment.
Already solved it. Deal with it every day.
Okay.
You don't have to do it. So you want it pumped, you can have it pumped whenever you want, but that's only on time of transfer is there those laws. That's it.
That's not what he said, so.
Come on right now.
Okay, any other discussion? I don't see that we have a solution that we want here, but
I need some direction.
What are we doing?
Well, one, I think this is good information. I didn't even know there was an issue of concern or anything about the 17 houses out there, the Sunset Division, till 2-3 months ago. So it was a surprise to me. I didn't know there was a concern, and we've had a lot of, over the last couple of years, a lot of opportunities for community input and to raise issues and help us set a CIP plan, for example. And it would have been nice to have this on the plan. Hey, $1 million sewer extension out to Sunset Division, and get it on there so we know what's coming up. We'd rank order it, and we could have been telling Greg, go find funding for this. Our plan for, God, we want to fund that and take some of our TIF money and allocate it there. And we haven't done that because we didn't know it even existed. We didn't know there was a problem. And it doesn't sound like there's a wish to have it fixed, and that's good. Let's think about progress, but it's not a problem we need to change our complete plan for this. I'd love to get it on the CIP plan, but we may not get to it for 3, 4, 5 years till we really look at, hey, we've got all these other things we want to do too. You know, and maybe in a year or two from now, housing development will be close to there to be like, okay, now's the time, let's do it. I don't know. It's like, I like the idea of fixing it, but I don't know, we need to jump through immediate hoops to get it done. 1, 2, what is the inventory of other houses within our community that are on sewer systems? I mean, is it 5% of our houses, or 10, or 15? Again, I assumed everybody was on sewers, so it's silly me for not knowing. And I'm familiar, we've had homes with sewers, I grew up on it. The house we owned in Beaverdale, we've been through all the problems out there. Our challenges, it's what it is. Country living, there's trade-offs, which is fine. So where I'm at, I'm on the bubble, but I don't feel a sense of urgency that we gotta do something right now today and change a bunch of things to make it happen. But I also don't want to be dismissive and say, oh, it's been this way for over 40 years and we're not going to address it. We got a lot of good facts now. We know we got $1 million, at least $1 million to change them to city sewers, what I gathered from what people have said.
First of all, that started out at 650 when Mike went through there, and the estimate was from the first estimate. And then it went from the 650, and now 750, and now it's 800.
I think it was a big ballpark.
Yeah, and they're all ballparks, and so is this, okay? But the ballpark keeps going up. So we really, it's going to be somewhere between 6 and now it's $1 million that we're talking about. So,
Well,
you know,
you don't have engineering fees in that cost.
no, that's what they were talking about when we first hit this.
There's just too many unknowns, and so you got an estimate of 700 to 850,000. You have engineering fees, and you have the individual hookups. But that's based on a visual survey. You don't know what you're going to find. It's based on
Start digging.
only information that we have in hand. So it's a limited estimate that our engineers can provide without doing more work. I mean,
So we got to spend some money.
You got to spend some money to get a more detailed estimate. Right. Which you could do, maybe that's what we talk about, is budgeting to do a more detailed or preliminary estimate and design. I mean, that's certainly another option down the road.
Well, I don't want to take our eyes off of that $6.5 million force main. It could blow at any time either. That's my first main concern.
Could you say that again? I didn't hear you.
Do I?
Could you say that again? I didn't hear you.
I said I'm more concerned about that $6.5 million project with the force main, because when it blows, we're all out.
I agree with
We'll
that.
all be going out using their septics.
Yes. I mean, I live out in that area. What concerns me is that it is not prepared for our budget, obviously. And that's what, I sympathize and I'm there too with the septic system, but I also understand that, and then when we went out to talk to the residents, this is not something we can just do this year. It's something maybe it's gonna have to be planned for the following year or whatever. And it works both ways, with the septic versus the, use of the water. I know sometimes it increases the value of your home with the hooking up, but if you don't have the funding right now and it wasn't planned for it, but it's something we should keep on our radar to do in the future.
Yeah.
That's how
Do it in the future after these people sell their houses and they have to put $25,000 to $40,000 in each one. You might as well not do it then, going back to what Andy said.
It's a bad time for them, it's a bad time for our city right now too. It's just no one, this is something that, I've lived out there since 1999, 96 time frame. And John's right, I always heard from the residents, they did not want to be annexed into the city. They fought it, the residents did, and they obviously lost, and some felt that it was sort of owed to them that, hey, that was part of the deal of being in the city to have that, facilities put in.
Have that service, pay for the service, have the
Yeah.
service, yeah.
But this council unfortunately is faced with, how do we pay for it? And, if you just don't have the money right now to do that.
Well, we do though. I mean, we can. You can take $100,000 out of TIF, that doesn't hurt a thing. You can take $300,000 out of, local option sales, and just remember, the past year, we've spent down the TIF almost $1 million, and on other projects, and here's a project that really needs attention. And then we could do depends what it comes in. If it comes in at the 650, we've got 3/4 of it already done. And then you got another year coming before you have to really pay for it. So then it would hit next year's budget. But if worst scenario, you add it with this project for the main, and the money's there. The money's there. And Greg, you could do that, right?
That is one method. I would, we have $700,000 in local option sales tax, but again, it goes back to council priorities. What are your priorities in the CIP and the other projects? I mean, that's really what you got to put it up against, and that's the decision you're going to have to make as a body. What are your priorities? The undesignated fund balance was, it's something that we investigated and identified, but it's also allowing us to get a lot of things done that are priorities. And the largest chunk of that went to pay for the trail. In addition to that, the stormwater project that we're paying for that has already, or most likely, brought about another $160,000 in grant funds, assuming the brick goes through. So these are all things that, that needed to get done. We all know we have a stormwater problem that we have to address. And the work that we're doing has led to hopefully a $160,000 grant to take it to 60% design. So if we knew about it a year ago, would it have fallen into one of those categories? May very well have, but what's an appropriate fund balance for TIF for a community our size? Probably about $200,000 to $300,000, so that if things come up that you need to do, and it could be something like this or something else.
It could be something like that came up just like this. Yeah.
Is it something that you could amend the resolution for the franchise fee and increase that franchise fee to pay for it too.
Well, I think it would fall under the resolution. It's just whether it's a priority.
What are we gonna do with everybody else?
And my question is, how many everybody else's are there? I still don't feel like I got a good answer.
Well,
Couple
you
houses
know,
in
if
town
if
down
there's
406.
16 houses somewhere else, I'd like to know that, you know?
Well, our 16 houses throughout the whole city, and it's like, have a comprehensive plan to get all houses within the city's limits onto city sewer. Let's do that plan.
Well, but is that appropriate? I mean, is it appropriate to put sewer down 406 with the housing that's there now? No, in my opinion, no.
Just
But if a
not cost
development were to come along.
406, Highway 406 out there, I
Right.
got you by the
But
plan.
if a development was to come along that could help pay for it and was bringing in a number of new homes, absolutely. And then you would hook on, or have the ability to hook on others. But does it make sense to hook up those outliers?
And
No.
it's not, I mean, this isn't a problem. It's not like they don't have sewer capabilities. I guess that's where I differ from this. The issue is just having to meet that code when they transfer title.
Not all of them is in that situation. There's 2 houses that have failed and they're gonna have to replace them. And there's 2 that's gonna have to
Yeah.
replace when they sell. So now there's 4 out of them. And, you know, when do you say, hey, you're part of the city, we'll take care of that, because you're a big group. If we had a 16-house development coming in, we would be jumping at serving that.
I think we had that conversation with the one north of us, and I don't think we had enough to move forward on it. When they were looking at doing a large development to the north and annex.
That's still on.
And wanted,
Well, I never remember sitting down at the table talking about that. It seemed like that never got to us.
well, I just don't see this as a problem, so I wouldn't be in favor of it in whenever down the line, just as it currently sits. Now, if there was more development that way, it'd be different, but this is a pretty typical thing. There's lots of these pockets around our greater area here where there's little developments that happened and they're on septics, and to me, that's your choice when you purchase that property. I'll leave it there.
Is it a situation where we could at least get a closer ballpark figure to what it would cost to do this?
I could ask for a engineering services agreement for preliminary design and cost estimate, see what it would cost to do that. If that's something you're interested in doing, so you have a better working number.
Not at the moment, okay. Melanie?
It's free for me to ask for that.
If there's no cost to have a better estimate, yes. It'd be nice to know, are we talking a
No, this would be a-
$600,000 project?
No cost to ask them to prepare a cost
us.
estimate for them to do the work.
Right.
Oh,
Get the
And
estimate.
see, that would be our
what's the
first.
cost to get you to quote for us?
Yes.
No
It
cost.
would be the first step in the
It's a start,
process, but
yeah.
it's a free step.
Well, no, it's not really a free step. It's,
Well, asking for the estimate, right?
no,
Estimate
you're gonna
cost
ask
to do
them
the
to prepare an
estimate.
estimate, but it's gonna cost you to,
Even
Do
get
that,
the
yes.
estimate, okay, all right.
Well, let's find out what that is. If
Well-
it's a $300 or $3,000. We don't know, right?
Correct.
And at the very least, it's information so we can include it with our capital planning and say, hey, this is a X amount of project, and add it to the process, and maybe we won't do this in the next year, but maybe it's on the 5-year plan, and we ultimately get there. But in fact, I'd also like, other than the 406, houses on 406, which are how many houses? 5, 10?
Dozen-ish, 10-ish?
Oh, so
It'd be
12?
less than 10, yeah, all the way down between 5 and 10 on 406.
Other than that bunch, are there other houses within our
no,
community
I
that
think
are
the
on
other side of
septic?
Sunset, I don't think it has sewer, I think they're on septic, and I'm wondering about, Jarrett Lane, which is a private road that has, I can't remember now if it's on septic.
It just, can we get that amount? Because to me, I'd like a comprehensive plan to just get it, let's fix it, so 10 years from now,
I
we're
bet
not
there's
gonna have
another
the same
16 houses in
conversation.
town that, 16 to 18 houses in town that have septic.
Problem is, they're all.
They're different.
They're spread out,
You're all
yeah.
spread out.
Okay. Let's just know, and is this a problem? Is it an environmental issue where we got septics leaking into the ground and polluting our creeks and water? And then the responsible thing is to how do we fix it? You make people change it, or you get them cooked in the city sewer?
If they, within a certain distance of a sewer line, they're required to hook up. Otherwise, it's typically, if an issue arises, and when that issue arises, it typically involves a larger group, like an annexation.
Okay.
And they're coming in and they want to discuss it because all their septics are failing. That's the typical point when a lot of folks bring annexation up. So,
I think we at least owe it to the residents to let them know our step process. I agree that explore, like you were talking about, how much it's going to cost just to even get an appraisal, but we need to keep, in any way, keep the residents informed of what's going on, so it's just not like a drop ball.
Well, in a realistic timeline, if we say, hey, we're not going to talk about it, we're not even going to consider it for 5 years, okay, well, at least that, or it's on the 3 to 5 year plan, or, and so they know, well, dang, I guess I got to spend $25,000 to replace it, and
something.
it's cost of living in a house.
Yeah.
I had to put a new roof on it every 20 years, I don't like it any year, but, okay.
But the
Maybe
city
when you get your
don't
house insured.
service a roof.
Put a new roof on.
I don't, I wasn't there when the city annexed them, but I know what I would have the same feeling. I mean, I lived there afterwards, and some of the families have lived there their whole life there, and they felt like, when they were annexed, this is something that our city would have, after the annexation, would have put in them that many homes.
Yeah.
And that's how they feel, and I understand that feeling. I would have felt the same way too if I'd lived there and then I was forced to be annexed. So what extra benefit now that am I getting now that we're a resident of West Burlington? Because they were already getting fire protection, they were already getting law enforcement protection. But I also agree that if you don't have the money to fund it right now, which we don't, and you have to make that part of your project to do that. And unfortunately, this council was faced with that, and it didn't come up until somebody decided to sell their home.
this annexation was done before the city development board was in place. And so any annexation done today would have a plan. It would tell you, one, you'd have a pre-annexation agreement, and two, it would, in working with the city development board, which is a state agency, you would have a plan and it would spell out exactly what's going to get done over what time period. But that happened subsequent to this annexation.
Greg, do you have at least a little something to work on then for this?
Yes.
Well, can we take a voice on giving you a direction of whether they're yay or nay here?
For what?
To go forward or to let the citizens defend for themselves?
I think that the consensus was to get an estimate for the
See what
engineer
it'll
to get
cost
the
you.
price, but not to move, from what I heard in my notes here, not to move forward right now. Consider putting it into a CIP after knowing the,
Right now determines what? Next week then? It's okay after we get that, or next month, next year?
To do what, John?
She
It's
said,
not.
not right now. What does right?
not move forward with funding it
Or not.
now.
Which is a year, 2 years?
I didn't
Probably 2 or
hear anybody
3,
say that. They just said they're not interested in doing it now.
And logically, I'm on a 2 to 4 year plan from now. If this project is $1 million project, this is where I'm, with the information in front of me today, is I'm thinking, we got $1 million project in front of us. Maybe it's 600,000, maybe it's 2 million. It's $1 million project. And we've got a lot of other things going on. It's like, how do we figure out to do this $1 million project
It's
in a
kinda
couple
like
year or two,
you
and
have to
rank it up
prioritize it.
again, prioritize it exactly against our list of other 25 things we've chosen that are priorities, and mix and move it around on there.
Well,
And
a couple,
just-
3 years from now, when you decide you want to do that, I think you ought to go out and ask them if they want it, because a lot of them may have already replaced their sewers.
Sure, they may have different new septic systems, yeah.
Hoping that,
We're not doing it in 6 months, and my guess is some of them can't wait 6 months if there's an issue, or it's just not gonna happen. Even if we wanted to, we probably couldn't. If all of us 100% said do it, it won't happen in 6 months.
No,
I'm guessing, maybe a year from now, I don't know.
it could be done in a year, probably.
I'm,
That's what the engineer said.
somebody said, but okay.
I said very fastest I thought it could, and everything fell into place was maybe a year, but you had a 2-year window that DNR gave you.
Yeah, so if you have a 2-year window and we say we're gonna do it, then there's a route where you,
They get I understand what you're saying. The DNR gives some approval for them.
approval to let
to
it go, and then
this
they
way
wouldn't have
instead
to
of
be
that way.
doing that.
Yeah.
They
I
would
wouldn't
have to-
count on that
They
if
would
that
have
were
to
my
agree
house.
to do it
I wouldn't
at
count
the end
on
of that agreement.
Yeah. If I were living in that, no, let's get this done. I'm not gonna live in a house I can't live in. I guess I do sometime. It's called an RV. Just,
Okay. All right, with that in mind, then, we are scheduled to go into a closed session.
Yep.
So, people need a 5-minute break before we go into that, or shall we?
Need a motion. I need a motion to go in.
motion to go into closed session.
Motion support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We will be in closed session then.